There's a kind of quiet suffering that doesn't scream. It shows up in the way we stay busy, chasing, fixing, proving. It's not dramatic. Not obvious. But it leaves us feeling hollow. Like no matter what we do, it's never quite enough. This video is about that feeling. And the mindset that feeds it. It starts with a promise you didn't realize you made. I'll be happy when I graduate. When I get that job. When I finally move out. Fall in love. Make 6 figures. It sounds innocent. Hopeful, even. A little ambition never hurt anyone, right? But somewhere along the way, this mindset, this idea that your happiness is always one milestone away, becomes the silent architect of your dissatisfaction. You stop living here. You start living there. In a version of reality that doesn't exist yet. The present becomes a waiting room. A means to an end. And every quiet moment starts to feel like a problem you need to solve. Instead of enjoying your walk, you're thinking about where you'll be in 5 years. Instead of resting, you're guilty for not improving something. Even when you do reach a goal, the relief is fleeting, replaced by a new next step. That's the trap. Because I'll be happy when isn't just a mindset. It's a moving target. And every time you hit it, it moves a little further away. You don't notice how much it costs you, not at first. But slowly, your life becomes a ladder. Not a landscape. You're climbing, without asking why. This chapter isn't telling you not to dream. Or to stop growing. It's asking if you've mistaken your life for a checklist. And whether you've forgotten that the only place happiness ever really lives, is now. There's a strange kind of exhaustion that comes not from doing too much, but from trying to become someone else. You scroll through your feed and it's all their productivity hacks, morning routines, mental models, books you should read, cold showers you should take. It feels like if you could just optimize enough, maybe you finally feel okay. But here's the question, who decided that the person you are now isn't enough? Somewhere along the line, self-improvement became a disguise for self-rejection. You're not learning because you're curious, you're learning because you feel behind. You're not setting goals because you're inspired, you're setting them because you're afraid of what it means if you don't. And the cruel irony? The more you chase this idea of the best version of yourself, the more you distance yourself from the parts of you that are already whole. Your softness. Your boredom. Your quiet mornings that don't produce anything. You start to fear rest. Doubt stillness. You forget that growth isn't always loud, sometimes it looks like doing less. Sometimes it looks like being okay with not having a plan. There's nothing wrong with wanting to improve. But when your self-worth is always tied to your progress, you never stop running. You become addicted to becoming. And in the process, you miss the strange beauty of just being. It's subtle how you start living for the eyes of others. You smile a little brighter when someone's watching. Phrase your opinions to sound more agreeable. Curate your life into something admirable, even if it doesn't feel real. At first, it's harmless. A filter here, a small edit there. But over time, you forget where the performance ends, and where you begin. This mindset, that you need to be perfect to be loved, creeps in slowly. It hides in compliments that feel conditional. In the pressure to be inspiring, productive, never too emotional. You tell yourself it's just being polished. But deep down, you know it's fear. Fear of being too much. Fear of not being enough. Fear that if people really saw you unfiltered, messy, human, they'd leave. So you armor up. Smile through the cracks. And the world applauds your strength, unaware of the weight you're carrying. But here's the cost, you can't feel truly loved if you're not being truly seen. And that's the most painful loneliness, being surrounded, but unknown. You weren't meant to be a brand. You weren't meant to live in constant rehearsal. Some of the most beautiful moments happen in the unpolished corners of life, when you cry and someone stays. When you admit you're lost and someone says, "Me too." Perfection is a costume. And the longer you wear it, the more it wears you down. There's a moment, quiet and fleeting, when you see someone else's life and feel something sink inside you. You can't explain it. You weren't even thinking about your own life until then. But suddenly, what you have feels smaller, less shiny. A friend gets engaged. A stranger buys a house. Someone your age travels the world while you're just trying to pay rent. And even if you're happy for them genuinely, there's a subtle ache. A whisper that says, you're behind. This mindset, this trap of constant comparison, is so normalized we barely notice it. But it rewires the way we see ourselves. Not as people with unique stories and paths, but as players in some invisible race. We start measuring worth in timelines, joy in achievements, and identity in how we stack up. The worst part? We compare our insides to everyone else's outsides. Their curated confidence to our private anxiety. Their highlight reel to our behind the scenes. And it leaves us quietly eroding, tethered to this invisible scoreboard that never actually existed. But you were never supposed to live their life. You were never meant to bloom on someone else's schedule. Your timeline isn't late. It's yours. And maybe the real question isn't how do I catch up? But what would my life look like if I stopped trying to compete? There's a quiet desperation that lives inside the words I have to. I have to succeed. I have to make it. I have to show them I'm not a failure. Maybe it started with a parent's disappointment. Or a teacher's subtle doubt. Or that moment someone laughed at your dream. And now, without realizing it, your whole life feels like a rebuttal. You've turned yourself into a response. To their judgment. To their absence. To every voice that ever told you wouldn't be enough. This mindset is clever. It looks like drive. It sounds like ambition. But underneath, it's fear dressed up as motivation. You say yes to everything because what if they think I'm lazy? You work late into the night because what if they think I can't handle it? You say I'm fine even when you're breaking because what if they think I'm weak? But here's the truth no one tells you: you don't have to earn your worth. You already have it. Proving yourself is a game with no finish line. Even if they believe in you, even if you win, it never feels like enough. Because the person you're really trying to prove something to is you. And maybe it's time to stop fighting yourself. To stop treating your existence like an argument you have to win. You don't need to be impressive to be worthy. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. Control feels safe. To plan every step. To predict every outcome. To hold on so tightly that nothing can fall apart, or so you hope. Maybe it began as protection. A way to survive chaos, disappointment, loss. So you started micromanaging your life, your feelings, your relationships, your future. You call it being responsible. You call it having high standards. But beneath it all, there's fear. Fear that if you let go, even a little, everything might unravel. But here's what control doesn't tell you: it's a fragile kind of safety. Because life doesn't ask for permission. People leave. Plans fail. The future refuses to fit inside your spreadsheet. And every time something unexpected happens, you break a little, not just from the event, but from the illusion that you ever had control in the first place. This mindset convinces you that surrender is weakness. That to loosen your grip is to fall behind. But real peace comes not from holding everything together, it comes from realizing you don't have to. You're allowed to trust the unfolding. You're allowed to not know what's next. There is a kind of strength in letting go. A kind of courage in choosing presence over prediction. Maybe life isn't something to conquer. Maybe it's something to feel, even when it's uncertain. You only let yourself breathe after crossing something off the list. Only relax when everything is done. Only rest when you've earned it. But here's the quiet cruelty: everything is never done. There's always one more thing. One more message. One more errand. One more way to improve. And so, rest becomes a reward you never quite reach. It becomes conditional. Transactional. Tied to your productivity. You sit down to unwind, but your mind keeps racing. You take a break, but feel guilty the whole time. Even sleep feels like a negotiation with your to-do list. This mindset, that your value is based on output, is a kind of self-abandonment. You were not a machine. You don't need to justify your existence through constant effort. You don't need to deserve rest. You need it because you're human. Because your worth doesn't spike when you're efficient, and drop when you slow down. In fact, some of your deepest clarity, your real healing, comes not in doing more, but in allowing stillness. But we've built a culture that glorifies burnout. That mistakes exhaustion for dedication. And so we learn to ignore our bodies. To override our instincts. To feel shame for needing pause. But what if rest wasn't the thing that gets in the way of your life? What if it is your life, the part where you reconnect with yourself, without performance? You don't need to wait to be empty to give yourself space. You can choose softness before the breaking point. There's a quiet shame that creeps in when you feel average. Like your life is too small. Your dreams too vague. Your story not dramatic enough to matter. We've been sold a narrative that to be valuable, we must be exceptional. Start a business. Travel the world. Change the game. And if we're not doing those things, or don't even want to, we start to wonder, what's wrong with me? But here's the thing, greatness isn't what we've been told. It's not viral. It's not loud. It's not always visible. Sometimes it's the friend who listens so well it changes your week. The barista who remembers your name. The quiet evening that feels like home. But when your mindset says ordinary equals failure, you overlook the sacred in the simple. You chase sparkle, not meaning. You keep reaching for something bigger, while life quietly passes by uncelebrated. Not everyone is meant to be known by millions. But everyone is meant to be known deeply by a few. There's nothing wrong with wanting more. But not if it's rooted in shame for who you already are. Your worth doesn't depend on being extraordinary. Sometimes, just being your present, kind, real is the rarest thing of all. It doesn't always look like avoidance. Sometimes it looks like checking your phone every 10 seconds. Or opening your laptop the second the room gets quiet. Or needing background noise just to fall asleep. We live in a world that gives us constant escape. Endless distraction. Infinite ways to not feel what we're feeling. And slowly, without realizing, we become strangers to our own inner lives. This mindset, this fear of stillness, starts to shape everything. You stop asking how you actually are. You avoid the discomfort that might hold insight. You mistake silence for emptiness, when it's often the doorway to clarity. But when you constantly numb with work, entertainment, even self-improvement, you bury more than just pain. You bury joy. You bury curiosity. You bury the parts of yourself that need space to breathe. The truth is, most of the answers you're chasing aren't out there. They're waiting inside you, quiet, gentle, patient. But they need you to stop. To sit. To feel. You don't have to be afraid of what you find. Your emotions aren't enemies. They're messengers. And sometimes, the most radical thing you can do is nothing at all. Just sit with yourself. Fully. Without trying to fix. Sometimes the most dangerous mindset isn't loud. It doesn't scream in your ear or storm through your day. It just quietly whispers, "You don't matter right now." It's the voice that says other people's needs come first. That your exhaustion can wait. That your dreams are selfish. That your body is just something to push through. And it doesn't feel heroic. It feels invisible. You show up. You stay calm. You handle everything. But beneath that calm? A tiredness you don't talk about. A longing you've put on pause for so long, you've forgotten what it sounds like. Self-neglect often hides under the mask of being low maintenance, easygoing, strong. But slowly, it drains the color from your life. Your joy becomes muted. Your boundaries blur. Your voice, the one inside you, gets quieter. And the scariest part? No one notices. Because you've trained them not to. This mindset doesn't break you all at once. It wears you down, moment by moment, until one day, you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back. But you can come home to yourself. You can unlearn the belief that care is something you have to earn. That love has to be proven. That your needs are a burden. Your presence matters. Your joy matters. Your rest matters. You were not here to be useful before being whole. These mindsets, the chasing, the proving, the numbing, they don't destroy you with a bang. They wear you down slowly, quietly, like water dripping on stone. And one day, you wake up wondering why you feel so far from yourself. But it's not too late. You can soften. You can shift. You can notice. Which mindset spoke to you most? Which one are you ready to let go of? What would your life feel like if you stopped striving and started listening? Let us know in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. If this video made you pause even for a moment, like it, share it with someone who might need it too. And follow the channel for more quiet reminders like this. You don't have to do this